Welcome to Healing Mindset, the space where deep restoration, self reclamation, and elevated consciousness meet. I am your host Nazish, and tonight's conversation is especially close to home for so many of us. Because burnout isn't just exhaustion, it is the moment we realize we have drifted away from ourselves. Our guest, Gabriela Popescu, knows the journey intimately, a transformational coach, speaker, and a spiritual mentor. Gabriela survived burnout, self betrayal, and complete depletion only to rise into the purpose through what she calls now Phoenix medicine. She guides women healing the four bodies: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, using her soul path framework rooted in neuroscience, energy work, and lived wisdom. This episode is a call to rise calmly, courageously, and completely. Welcome to the show, Gabriela.
Thank you so much for having me and for that great introduction.
I am glad. Gabriela, burnout shows up differently for everybody, but your work reveal it as a deeper discontention rather than just fatigue. When you look at burnout through the four bodies, where do you see the earliest signs for that most people miss?
Well, we the easiest way to answer that is that you see it in the physical body, or that's where you experience it through headaches, fatigue, disengagement, just not wanting to participate in anything. But I think it's much deeper, and it's really connected to the the aspects and the connection to self. So it's really connected to unconditional love. How deeply do you love yourself? And from there, it actually trickles in all the bodies because we often choose to, override ourselves, override our intuition, to override that the desire of the soul to just be, to be still, to be in the present moment and to nourish ourselves. There's this epidemic of constantly doing, producing. There's this mindset that if you don't produce, then you're not worthy of anything. You're not worthy of that salary, worthy of that promotion. And that's false because that's where burnout happens, right? The more we push, the more depleted and exhausted we're going to end up being. And I've had most of my career has been in nonprofits and corporations, right? And so I could definitely attest to seeing burnout, experiencing burnout, and it happens it happens very quickly. Like you go very quickly from being in a harmonious state to just being depleted. Like it happens in an instant sometimes, and it took thousands of steps for you to get there. But uh, yeah, to answer your question, I believe that it stems from a lack of self love and also knowing how to use boundaries effectively, and teaching people how to support you and how to win with you while also like maintaining your harmony within the bodies.
That is a beautiful distinction and something that many of our listeners will be able to understand. So, tell me, was there a moment in your own burnout journey when you realized you weren't just tired, but you were disconnected?
Absolutely. Yes. I've had many days where I just wanted to space out, self-soothe, and just binge watch TV or just not be present, not be present with myself, not be present with my family. And those are some big signs that you need time for yourself. You need to pour back into yourself because you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So we want to make sure that we put our oxygen mask first, that analogy, before we put it on our partner, our family, and our kids.
I think many of our listeners will begin recognizing their own signals in what you share, till what you have shared with us till now. And I guess it's beautiful. So, let's just talk about Phoenix medicine. Phoenix medicine came from both survival and awakening. What personal truth or breakdown sparked the creation of this moment?
Originally, so in my book and in my framework, there are 4 steps to it. And step one is source connection. I've always had the connection to God, source, whatever you want to name it, whatever is suitable for you, whatever label you're using. But I never really leaned into it. I didn't really explore it until I had this really toxic relationship that I attracted into my life. It wreaked havoc across all areas of my life. And I had no choice but to connect with God and source. And I've gotten all these divine nudges to connect with Reiki, which is energy work. And so that's how Phoenix Medicine got started. I started doing energy work with my clients, and then it became much more. Then it became the other 3 bodies, right? Not just connection with source or with your spiritual body. And I discovered that I was under this false impression that if I connect with source and I take care of my spiritual body, everything else will fall into place. Well, I couldn't be more wrong. There has to be a fine balance between the 4 bodies because they're interconnected. So if you're eating a lot of junk food, which I was doing, and just feeding my spiritual body, the other 2 bodies were suffering because everything has a trickle effect and trickle up and trickle down effect, right? There's a spiritual, mental, emotional, and then physical. And there's an effect both ways in both directions. Um, so, yeah.
I'm definitely sure that your story is gonna give hope to a lot of listeners of ours. Like that, this is gonna give them hope that breakdowns can actually become turning points in their life and not endings.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So these bodies that you're talking about, it's like many people try to solve burnout only at surface. Like they're gonna give more sleep, more boundaries, more self-care, like without addressing the deeper inner fractures. Which of the 4 bodies tend to hold the deepest wounds? And why is that?
Yeah. So I think they all hold trauma and burnout in different ways, but I think the physical body could is definitely one of the big ones because let's say someone's being mean to you or is talking down to you, your body's absorbing that. You absorb it in the womb, especially like as women, we everything that negative or mean or any trauma that we've ever experienced, big or small, it gets captured in the womb. And then it could get captured in the tissues and the fascia, and it's just overwhelming in how many ways you can absorb those things. But I also think that the mental body is also key because we are our worst self critic. So if we have outdated programming that we're running based off of, let's say, like when you are young, you are making sense of the world. And so you created these beliefs, and those beliefs became your reality. And so, like, your unconscious mind perpetuated those beliefs. I'm not enough. If I don't produce, no one's going to love me, that kind of thing. And so we're carrying those beliefs into our adulthood and we're creating the same things over and over again. So those 2, absolutely. Yes.
That is such a grounding perspective. And like for our listeners who are resonating with everything you are saying, what is one gentle and doable practice they can do to begin healing this specific body without being becoming overwhelmed?
So there are many ways to do it. I The easiest thing that I recommend people that are just starting out is to learn how to ground. And intention is everything. Intention supersedes anything. So you don't have to be on the grass with your feet on the ground to be able to ground. If you're just setting that intention to connect with Mother Gaia, with the earth, and asking for help to absorb all the emotions you're going through, or if there's something that's, triggered you or made you mad or angered you, to help release that. And then to look at the mental body and really inspect and be curious about what are your beliefs about the situation. Because if your belief is that person did this to me, that's not necessarily the right approach. I would invite your listeners to be curious and say, what made this person act this way? Because 9 times out of 10, the way people treat you is a projection of their own insecurities and their own trauma, and not necessarily uh, your value and you.
That is such a deep thing. Like, that is something that I am resonating with right now. And I'm pretty sure that many of my listeners are going to be, being able to think about something that is happening in their real life and be able to relate with this as well. You're truly showing us how deep healing can be, how deep healing can be simple and not complicated. And that is such a relief.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I was just gonna add, you know, there's a lot of methodologies out there and techniques and spiritual gurus and guides and what have you. They all have their own methodology. And for some people, those may work, but I want your listeners not to get overwhelmed when they think about the four bodies and just start simple, one thing at a time. And then after 21 days, add another simple step. And that's how transformation happens.
That is beautiful. And I'm very sure that many of our listeners might try to do that in their real life, and it is going to benefit them. So, your soul path framework helps women reclaim their power after years of people pleasing and self abandonment.
Mhm.
What mindset shift is essential for someone who fears that reclaiming themselves might hurt others and disrupt relationships? This is something I would personally want to know as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that some people are in your life for a season, others for a lifetime. And as we learn to take care of ourselves and love ourselves and create the life that we want, because we're 100% responsible for what we create, we're the architect of our life. Some people may not like that, and that's okay, because they're not meant to be on this journey of growth with you. And I know that that's easier said than done, especially when it comes to close family members. But I think that if your listeners and you continue on your path and then let them see the change, something may change within them where they'll start reciprocating the changes that you've made and even have an impact on them, because our energetic fields are incredibly powerful. So who you keep in your, like, who you spend time with has a huge impact on your growth and development, or, reverting back to patterns and activities that you don't want to hold in your life anymore. So everything has a reaction. And I think that if those people are meant to stay in your life, they're going to stay. And, just communicating and explaining, like, this is what is important for me right now. I want to grow. I want to heal. And these are the things that are going to help me do this. Would you want to do them with?
So, just a curious thought. Do you have a transformation story of someone whose empowerment actually strengthened their relationship rather than fractured them?
Mhm. I will. Yes, I do. So I am an immigrant. I was born in Romania, and so I worked with several immigrants myself. And you know, most people that are not American, the values of family are very strong, and respecting your elders is extremely important. And for people, at least in Eastern Europe, I think really across the world, like I haven't encountered the terminology of boundaries really up until I came to the US. There's no concept of that. At least in the Eastern European world or in Romanian culture, there's none of that. Like you respect your boundaries no matter what. You don't challenge them. Not what they say is true and what you say is wrong, even if you disagree. And one of my clients was a little clumsy at first with setting boundaries with her mother. And over time, over the span of 2 years, that relationship completely changed. The mother understood the boundaries and started respecting them. But, in the beginning, it's a little clumsy, right? It's like you're developing a muscle that you've never worked out. Eh, It's going to take some time. And as long as you're doing it from a place of love and compassion and desire to do what's right for you, because there's nothing wrong with being focusing on that first. Because if you're happy, then your world is going to be happy and your world will change and be the place that you want to live in.
That is such a beautiful story, and I'm so happy it worked out for your client and her mother. And and you're definitely helping our listeners understanding that to honoring themselves doesn't mean rejecting others. And it is such a beautiful perspective to have in your life, in your day, and to move ahead with it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So the spiritual body is often the most misunderstood layer from what I have known or heard. For someone who isn't sure what they believe in anymore, how can you describe spiritual restoration to them?
So when I was coming out of a toxic relationship and trying to rebuild myself, the relationship that I had before that relationship were gone because I was basically cut off from all of that. So I was alone, right? Or so I thought. I was not really alone. Connecting with spirit or connecting with your spirituality is so powerful because it allows you to connect with your higher self, with your spiritual team, because we all come here with a spiritual team. So, ascended masters could be in your spiritual team, or ancestral uh, lineage could be in your team. And they're here to support you. But remember that you have free will. We all have free will. And so if you don't ask for help, they're not going to just give it to you. So that was a very significant step for me, and realizing that I need to ask for help. And that, my transformation, my healing, the path, and the book, and all the work that I've been doing with clients, no one has done it alone. I've had many mentors, many teachers, and also many spiritual connections. And
That is something very amazing, and I love how you gently brought the spirituality down from abstraction into something we could do in everyday life. It's so beautiful. And just something that what is the very first spark, like a sign or a sensation or a moment that you ask people to look for when they are reconnecting with their spirituality?
so you can find spirituality in nature. You could find it, by connecting with animals, by volunteering for a cause that you care about. Source God is everywhere. It's first and foremost within you. And if you're struggling to connect with that, just start simple, start with a 5-minute meditation, just filling your mind and be still and see what comes forward. It it's not it doesn't take a lot to connect to source. And I say in my book I talk about nature too, because that could be someone's spiritual connection, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be, Archangel Michael or Isis or Mary Magdalene, which are my spirit guides. It doesn't have to be that. It could be, connecting with a tree. They have so much wisdom and so much power. It could be as simple as that.
You make spiritual healing sound so beautiful and feel like something we discover and like we can discover and not something we have to force ourselves to discover. I think this is the invitation that many of my listeners must be waiting to hear. And it is so beautiful.
So so I I say it's especially important now because, with all the technological advances that we're making and this push to go faster and faster, the energies are faster, the expectations of productivity are increased. It's so important to balance it out and to come within yourself and be still during this time.
Yeah. And connecting with nature is the best feeling, I guess. Yeah. So, Gabriela, like you mentioned about your book and everything, so many of our listeners who want to know more about your work and deeply connect with more of your frameworks and your work, where can they connect with you and begin this journey?
Sure. So I do posts on YouTube and Instagram, and they could just go to my website. That's where they'll find all my social media links, phoenixmedicine.ne. And from there, they could keep track and they could sign up to be a subscribers. So
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And I will make sure to include all these details into the show notes. And I know tonight's conversation will lead many women straight to your door.
I hope so. And thank you so much for this interview. It's been really great connecting with you.
Uh, Gabriella, thank you for such an awakening and soul level conversation. Your wisdom reminds us that burnout isn't failure, it is an invitation back home to ourselves across every layer of being. To everyone listening, if tonight stirred something within you, don't silence it. Let it guide you toward deeper presence, braver boundaries, and softer self talk, and a richer relationship with yourself. Healing begins the moment you choose to rise, and every rise begins with one honest moment of listening. I am Nazish, and this is Healing Mindset. Until next time, stay gentle, stay aware, and stay devoted to your own becoming.